Alan. Nice to see you.
Hey Annie, hey everybody. So this is my first ever interview, and I'm really pleased to have online with me Annie Andre of annieandre.com. Um, what I want to talk to Annie about today is a diet that she's been doing. Well, it's not exactly a diet, but what I would say is extreme fasting. Is that fair?
Sure. Extreme fasting.
Yeah. So I'm quite fascinated by this. Before we get into the call, do you want to just say a bit about yourself and then we'll answer the question why you did this?
Sure. So for the last 6 months, I've been living in the south of France, in Marseille, France, with my husband and 3 kids. And we're just taking a family sabbatical, working on some personal goals here. I'm starting a home business. My husband's writing a book, and we're hopefully all three of our kids will be bilingual by the time. Well, they already are bilingual. But at the end of the year or two, we hope to go back to our normal lives. And the reason why I did a fast was because we're here in France to have to complete some goals, and I created a regime of goal setting worksheet that I based off of the SMART model, and I wanted to see if it would work. So I picked something really hard to do, which was fasting because I love food, just to see if I applied my goal setting techniques to something I didn't like, and I knew it would work in other areas of my life. So that's how it came about. And I've always been fascinated with doing experiments with my body. Well, that sounds weird. Not experiments, doing experiments like health experiments, running experiments,
Yeah.
or just basic experiments all around. So it was fascinating from an intellectual point of view too.
Okay.
And I
So
lost 10 pounds.
cool. So I have to admit I was never really I've never really been that into diets. And the only impression I've ever had of diets is people kind of yo-yo around them. And then I read The 4 Hour Body by Tim Ferriss. So I mean, you know this, Annie. I've recently um, kind of got interested in diets, which is why I wanted to have this call, because when you briefly told me in a call we had earlier that you'd done this fasting, I'm just in awe of it. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and I know from my own experience of doing that slow carb Tim Ferriss style diet, it's not just the effect it has on your body, but it's the effect it has on your mind as well, which is quite interesting. You know, the way that your thoughts about food change through these kind of diets. So um, let me just get this right. So you literally only drank water for 30 days. Is that right?
Actually, there was an on-ramp period and an off-ramp period. So because you can't just stop eating
Right.
your system. I mean, I didn't know this. I did a lot of research behind it because I wasn't going to see a doctor while I was doing it. You have to prepare your body. So to prepare it, I just started eating non-processed food. We don't eat a lot of junk food, but I didn't eat any carbohydrates or rice or processed foods. I just started eating a lot of green stuff for the first 3 days. Then the next 3 days, I pared it down to just liquid soup. Like I had protein in it. And then about the sixth or the seventh day, that's when I went straight to water.
Okay.
Water in the morning. And a couple days I cheated. I had tea. I usually had a tea in the morning, a small glass of tea.
But this
But
is
I
green tea.
figured that was okay because it was so liquid.
Right.
Green tea, usually jasmine. I love
Right.
jasmine tea. And I did that. I did the complete water fast for about 21 days because 7 days on was just preparing my body, and then 7 days off, I started introducing food again because what I read was if you start to eat normally, you can make yourself very, very sick.
Right.
And it's true because around the 22nd day, I introduced soup again, and just the protein in it, made me really ill.
Hmm.
And I tried to eat little bits of fruit, and my stomach started to hurt. So I just kept introducing food slowly and slowly. And the 30th day, I think I can't remember, a little bit of pasta, and I got really ill from eating a solid food like that. So for about a month after that, I could only eat green vegetables, and by that time, it just kind of really stuck. And I used to be addicted to carbs, and we eat lots of rice and pasta.
Yeah.
And I've just really noticed that I don't have to eat as much now, as long as I just keep maintaining it. And it's not a diet; it's a complete new way of eating. It's just every day,
Yeah.
incorporated into our life every day. So
Okay. I can really relate to the carbs. I mean, I love pasta and rice. And with the slow carb diet, I'm not allowed to eat those 6 days a week either. So I find that quite tough, especially if my wife's cooked something nice. Um, so 7 days on, 7 days off,
hmm and
and
some people have gone 100 days this way.
wow.
So,
So
I think that it's possible. The only reason why I had to stop after 30 days was because I knew it would be a challenge mentally. And my husband was in the States finishing up a contracting job, and my husband likes to eat a lot. He likes to eat food, good food. So I knew with him gone, with me just with the kids, I could take care of the kids' needs, cook something very kiddie-like, and not feel tempted to eat their food. Um, but from what I was reading online, there were people that were doing this for 100 days.
wow.
And around the fourth or fifth day of just eating the first 7 days, after the first 7 days, I actually wasn't hungry anymore, which
Okay, so
was
let's break this down a bit. So you've built yourself up for 7 days, and then you're just on water with the
just on water,
occasional
yeah.
jasmine tea or green tea. But
Right.
I mean, the reason I'm really sorry I interrupted you there when you said about tea, but tea for me, being British, is milk, right? Black tea with milk. So that definitely wouldn't be okay on the water only diet. But I'm guessing jasmine tea or green tea really isn't much more than water anyway. So surely that's not really a big deal anyway.
I just had to make sure I was drinking water, and it was amazing how much water I drank. I was drinking, the 2 liter Coke things of
Yeah,
size. I was probably drinking around 3 or 4 of those. I just had a big thing of water next to me,
yeah,
and I just kept hydrating. The thing about tea is, it's a dehydrator. I don't know how you say that.
yeah,
Caffeine dehydrates you.
right.
So I was just kept rehydrating myself, and I was fine. And because I had a little bit, and some days I was really tired because when you're not eating, you get really exhausted. Walking my daughter to school, which is 2 blocks from our house, I was literally winded. Um, and I like to exercise, so I couldn't exercise. Climbing stairs was exhausting. So there's a process. I wrote down everything from the day 1 to day 30. I wrote down everything I ate throughout the day, which was part of my goal setting process. And around day 3 or 4, I started getting delirious. But I wrote down everything. I actually did a blog post on day 6 that I don't remember writing.
Right.
And from what I understand, it's your body going into a ketosis status where it shifts over and starts eating your body's fat. It eats your liver, whatever's in your liver for a day, and it switches over and starts eating your body fat. And eats your muscles for a day or two, but then it starts burning fat. And that's where something just fires in your head, and I started getting almost like an epiphany. I started getting all these ideas for my business, and like I had such moments of clarity, and it was actually quite amazing. So I didn't think it would happen to me. I thought, I was like, oh, other people state that this would happen to them. I didn't think it would happen to me.
Okay, so when you said that you wrote down every day what you'd been eating, but you weren't eating anything, right? After 7 days. So this was just to check that you weren't actually eating things.
Right. And if I had water, I wrote down every time that I had water. So whatever I put in my mouth went
Okay,
on
so
a sheet.
eating and drinking. Okay, and then so all of the things that are happening to your body, right? You did your research before you started this fast, right?
Say that again?
You have to excuse my accent, it's a Northern English accent. You did your research before you started this fasting, right?
I did. I consulted the the book of knowledge, Google.
Right. And so, before you started, were you concerned about health issues or anything? Or actually, let me ask a different question before I get into that. So, when you start, you said this was a goal, right? So, was the goal of this just the challenge of doing it, or was it weight loss, or was it health? Would you know what was the main
It
reason for this?
was. It wasn't a diet. I've never been on a diet in my life per se, like where I've for a weekend I've stopped eating, or I don't know. Um, it was more of a challenge
Right.
because I've heard of the health benefits of going through fast, of purging your system, of getting the toxins out, of from cleaning your colon out. Just all the benefits I was reading about, because fasting has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. And I was actually amazed at the health benefits that I read about, because I've always thought, being raised in a Western society, that it was dangerous. And it is to some extent if you don't do it correctly. And when I told some of my friends or family that I was fasting, they thought I was crazy. They thought, oh, that's not safe, you shouldn't do that. But I was motivated to do it because here in France there's a huge Muslim population,
Yeah.
and I had been reading about Ramadan, and they fast for 30 days, and they do the young children do it, and I thought, well, it can't be all that bad, and that's what kind of got me curious about it, and I thought, well, I want to try it, and the more I read about it, the more I wanted to just see if I could do it, because I have never ever gone on a diet. I've tried to go on a diet once, and I lasted 2 hours. So this was really a huge challenge for me because I'm kind of a foodie. But it was just a whole host of like intellectually curiosity, health reasons, and I wanted to see how my body would react. And of course, there's the other part about, I read about people saying that they had epiphanies and a moment of clarity during day 4 and 5, and it is true. I did go through that period where I just had all these ideas, and
Right.
like just things I had been struggling with suddenly became clear, and I have like pages and pages of things I had written down. It's very, very hard to explain. Enlightenment. I felt enlightened.
So it was primarily the challenge, but also you, because the next question I was going to ask you is, were you concerned about your health? But actually, you're saying that it's actually a benefit because you're cleaning your colon. You were looking for health benefits from this, not health concerns.
Yeah, I did search a lot about to learn about the negative side, and as long as you had enough body fat on you and you hydrated, I couldn't see any danger. I mean, I'm a healthy person.
Yeah.
I didn't have any health risks. I don't recommend people doing it without seeing a doctor, but I did it
You did.
without seeing a doctor. But again, I've never been sick. I've always been healthy. I exercise a lot. I eat healthy anyway, so it wasn't a huge jump for me, except that I would stop eating.
Okay.
Um,
And I mean, you're part of the inspiration. You said there's a lot of Muslims in France and they do Ramadan, but in Ramadan they eat before the day and at the end of the day, right? So
they do. They can only eat at night,
yeah,
and I think some of my son's friends said they eat toast or something like that, but very
well,
light.
they feast at a certain time in the evening and very early in the morning. They feast. They don't
Right.
eat the whole day long and then they feast, right? So, but
Right.
you're not eating anything for 30
I wasn't
days.
eating anything, and that's what I was going to go for, just partial fasting, because I found that there were many, many different types of fasting,
Yeah,
where water was the actual most extreme, and I wanted to try that. I thought, okay, a worst case scenario is I'll have something to eat. I'll have a piece of toast,
right.
or I'll have a piece of fruit. Always giving myself a way out.
An
I didn't
escape
want to
clause.
just I didn't want to cave and say, oh, I failed it. Now I'm just gonna forget the whole thing. I think I cheated one time because I had to take my daughter to school,
Hmm.
and I didn't feel good, so I had like a little piece of chocolate. But it was only this big.